So today's session introduces a new feature that we will publicly release right after this meeting, which is the ability to approve roles. I will mostly talk about roles today, but everything I'm saying with roles applies to systems as well. So we want to have a list of approved roles. It was a fairly popular request to be able to create and control the roles that are used in processes, so that we can have like an official list that are encouraged to use by people. So without further ado, I will show you what it looks like, and then we'll come back to the screen and talk about all the under the hood, what it works. So if I'm going to this process that I'm always using as a demo, I've used this last week already, and I see a lot of familiar faces. So you can see a new icon because this feature is enabled in my workspace. So the role approval is an optional feature that you can turn on in your workspace when you're ready to go into role approval. So we can see that we have a lot of roles with like a little hourglass here, meaning that if I hover over the role, I can see that the role is pending approval. Okay, so these roles are yet to be approved, and the idea that if I'm an editor, it's okay, but we can maybe try to use, when we are typing in the list, we can try to use roles that are actually approved. So when the role is approved, it doesn't have any icon. What is the implication of having roles that are not approved? Well, none per se. First, you can still map the processes and continue working. So this was important to us, that that you could still, as an editor, you could still create roles on the fly while doing a workshop. Okay, we didn't want to break the flow because we know from experience that it's very hard to have a predefined list of roles, and when you're loading them, there will always be roles missing or not the right naming or the latest up-to-date version. So we didn't want to break the flow of the role creation. So you can still create roles while you're mapping, and by default, there will be in pending approval unless you are a role approver. In this case, if you are a role, let's say we have a marketing digital analyst, which we don't have in the library yet. So I'm creating this digital marketing analyst, and we see that it's already approved because I am a role approver. So all the roles that I'm creating are automatically approved. Now, what does that mean, having pending roles? There's a second feature that I've enabled in my workspace. So I've enabled the role approval thing, which is optional. I have enabled another feature that I will show you right now that prevents me from approving publishing a process when roles or systems are not yet approved. Okay, so here it tells me cannot request approval because at least one role is not approved. All right, so that's the second feature, is to encourage, more than encourage people using approved role, is to force them at this stage, because we won't be able to reach an approved and published version of a process without that. So how do I approve role, considering that I have the permission? So I will do it for this process. It's in the business tools, in the roles, as everything related to roles. And we can see here now that we have a new button here, roles approval, and it tells me that I have 4 roles pending, which I can see on my lists on the left-hand side, these 4 roles. So let's go here, and the role approval. Loading. All right. So now I can see the 4 roles that are pending approval, and I can approve them one by one, or there's a button to approve them all to make it quick. If a role shouldn't be there, we can reject it. I will show you the consequences of doing that. I can reject it. I can also look at the report to see where the role is actually used. And there's a couple of features here as well that allows me to quickly manage this role if I want to rename it or merge it into a role or convert it. So that's the same menu we have everywhere, pretty much. So let's reject this marketing analyst for the sake of the example, and then I will approve the remaining 2. I can click the approval role, and it will just automatically approve the remaining roles that are pending. Okay, if I change my mind, I can put a role back into pending if I ever want to. So now this role of marketing analyst is rejected, which will show on the process again, having this red icon telling me, all right, you're using a role that is rejected. The next step will probably be to delete the role or clear it from the role library altogether. But we decided to, I don't know, we just reject the role and we flag it as a rejected role, and further actions can be taken by hiding or deleting the role. Okay, now that this role is still deleted, I still can't publish. Okay, there's still a role that is not approved, so I need to do something on my process, either negotiate to have this analyst approved with a role approver, or just plain and simple remove it because it's actually a work of the, let's say it's a digital, I deleted the wrong one. It's the wrong one. Oh. Marketing analyst. Okay, let's leave it like that for now. And now that I only have approved role on my process, I will be able to, probably needs to refresh. I was a bit quick. Okay, role approval. It still doesn't like it. Marketing analyst. Maybe it's used somewhere else, but I didn't notice.
There was another box below.
Yeah, here it was. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that works. We can take the digital analyst, let's say, instead. Let's prove that it works. Yeah, now it says it's been checked, the process is validated to be published. So now these tools I just showed you within the context of one single process. You have the same tool at the workspace level. Because I just enabled the feature on an existing workspace, I have a fair amount of work to do to approve and reject the existing roles that were already there. My recommendation, if you're enabling this feature on an existing workspace, is probably to go through the roles that you want to reject and then click approval. It will approve all the remaining pending roles. So it's probably the fastest way to do. This can also be done at a process level. It will tell you now this role is pending approval. We can approve and reject directly from here. So as I mentioned, this is while introducing this feature of the role approval, we also introduce a new something that we'll see much more in Spark is a much more granular permission management to give or to give some capabilities to some users, some permissions or privilege to some users. So here in this case, I see that so first thing to note, administrators can do everything all the time. All right, so they are basically not concerned by these permissions. But here I can see that all workspace editors can approve the role, which is the default when you're loading the feature. This is how it's set, so it's fairly wide things. If you're an editor, you can approve them. You probably want over time to refine that a little bit more. So all admins all the time will be able to approve, so that's fine. But maybe you want to add, I don't know, let's say Daniel and Ruben are also, they're not admin, but they can approve I trust them to be able to approve roles. So this is a capability that we've built into Spark that internally we call it the granular permissions management. And we're looking in the future at expanding this and giving permissions for editing diagram templates, style sheets, and all sorts of things, not just to admin, but to admin and maybe selected editors. Back to my general feature. So you will see it here when it's fully released, the role approval and the system approval. The other feature that I've enabled in my case is this one, the prevent process publication if an approved role. So these are the two features that I've enabled for this workspace. In this workspace, I decided to not toggle on the system approval. So I consider that systems can be created by anyone, and I don't need a sort of a controlled list of systems. This was my decision for this workspace, but we've still implemented the system approval, considering that in a more regulated environments or controlled environments, you want to also have a list of systems that are approved. I wanted to show you a couple more. So yeah, these permissions, you will see that much more in the next couple of months. The list will be growing and growing. If I'm going back to my demo process, there's a little tiny thing that we've added, and I think having used that in the last couple of weeks, I found it quite convenient. When you hover over a role, it shows a design will evolve. I think it's a bit too busy, but a little hover pop-up when you're hovering a role with quick access to the role description. So it jumps to the role description, helping me to understand where this role is used and how, but also a button to highlight this role. So show me all and this is the feature I showed last week in the drop-in session. Show me all highlight all the roles, all the boxes with where this role is involved to make it more obvious. Just as a reminder, when I highlight a role, it not only highlights within a process, but if I'm going at the workspace level, it will also highlight the actual processes and folders where this role is involved. We can see the drop-in session folder here is highlighted. It's a very convenient feature and very easy to reach directly from the process map. So, as a summary, now you can in Spark approve and reject roles or systems so that you can manage an approved library of roles to encourage users to use it. You can also prevent the publication of processes that don't have that have roles that are not yet approved. And we have a much more granular way of managing the permissions of this new user privilege or permission that we call the role approver.